Greetings, everyone. My name is Nobuyoshi Fujisawa, President and CEO of J-Trust. We announced the consolidated financial statement for J-Trust yesterday. Allow me to state the conclusion at the beginning, namely that our company posted an operating loss of 32.6 billion yen. We also posted a loss attributable to owners of parent of 36.6 billion yen. We lowered company guidance in February when our last results briefing took place, so the results we announced yesterday were more or less in line with company projections. Admittedly, we had projected a loss, but at any rate, we didn't stray from that forecast. Next, I would like to discuss the current fiscal year, that is, the fiscal year currently in progress. The closing date for each fiscal year for our company had previously been in March. We had originally expected to turn a small profit. The fiscal year in South Korea ends in December each year for all companies. Singapore and Indonesia also follow the same accounting period standard. I've talked about this issue with others, people like CFOs of global companies that have banks in Japan, and they all said that their company's fiscal year end is in December. However, it is customary for Japanese banks to employ an accounting period ending in March. J-Trust is not in the banking business in Japan, so for this reason, we have decided to shift the accounting period and adopt a closing date in December. This wasn't done as a result of immediate earnings trends, but rather in order to avoid the duplication of effort associated with closing the fiscal year in all these countries in December, and then again in March in Japan, in accordance to the IFRS accounting standard. This generates a significant amount of extra overhead and represents a cost. We have therefore decided to adopt an accounting period ending in December for J-Trust as a whole. Moreover, the financial business is associated with a progressive improvement over time. J-Trust is currently in the process of realizing these progressive improvements. The further into the future, the better our operating profit. In case of an operating loss, the further into the future, the less pronounced this loss. So, had we set the fiscal year end for March, we believe we would be able to deliver an improvement of 400 or 500 million yen. Despite this, we still decided to shift to a closing date in December. The new fiscal year is a 9-month period, so we consider delivering a recovery in one fell swoop to be rather difficult. However, our forecast for this 9-month period takes into account M&A expenses associated with our acquisition of ANZ Royal Bank Cambodia, such as FA fees and due diligence fees. I believe items pertaining to system infrastructure are counted as assets, so we should exclude those. However, there are other costs like contingency fees and litigation costs in excess of 1 billion yen, as our legal proceedings are still ongoing. For this reason, we have included these litigation costs in our forecast. We expect a profit of 61 million yen to be precise, but during this fiscal year, almost zero. I have been asked about next fiscal year and the year after that. These non-recurring M&A expenses associated with our business in Cambodia and contingency fees will no longer play a part going forward. So, and bear in mind these are internal forecasts we haven't disclosed to the public, and extrapolating from the current data, we expect to deliver about 6 billion yen in operating profit and about 2 billion yen in profit attributable to owners of parent during the fiscal year ending in December 2020. For the fiscal year after that, we expect to deliver about 10 billion yen and about 6 billion yen for these two earnings metrics, respectively. Within the scope of our restructuring project for Indonesia, we consider a complete recovery during the next fiscal year to be difficult, but we are operating under the assumption we will be able to return the business to profitability the fiscal year after that. While we expect fairly robust results in terms of operating revenue, the reason we will not be delivering a profit for the 9-month period that comprises the current fiscal year is due to M&A expenses and litigation costs, which currently constitute a burden for the company. I would like to approach the topic of today's earnings briefing, starting with the areas where performance was poor. Regarding the Indonesia business, the existence of a large number of non-performing loans came to light. For this reason, I told those in charge of running our bank in Indonesia that they aren't capable of successfully determining the credit worthiness of borrowers, and for this reason I told them to stop all lending. This led to a steady decline in the bank's loan balance and an increase in NPLs. As a result of this, we registered a pronounced reduction in the bank's loan balance and saw ordinary expenditures exceed profits, resulting in losses. We therefore registered an ordinary loss. Our strategies to turn things around in Indonesia involve the integration of bank branches. We have too many people working at BJI, around 800 people, for a bank with a loan balance of approximately 100 billion yen. Since we're talking about an online bank, this number is excessive, as something like 50 or 100 people would be a more reasonable number. For this reason, we will be carrying out restructuring. I say restructuring, but in reality, we will be allocating human resources from BJI to JTO, which specializes in auto loans, loans for farm equipment, and other non-bank business, and to JTII, our servicer business. We will therefore continue the process of turning BJI into a leaner enterprise. As you can see from the slide, we wrote we would be identifying the problems with BJI. However, we already have a good grasp of the factors which led to the problems at BJI. As a listed company, they were pressured by the head office to increase their loan balance to meet targets. In the drive to expand the bank's loan balance, they adopted lax lending standards and procedures. Since it's a bank, we have internal procedures. Banking really isn't a business prone to large losses. Basically, the banking business is profitable if the bank runs the business according to its internal procedures. Such is the basis of the banking business. This is especially true in developing markets with high interest rates, where a bank can simply collect commissions without ever having to issue loans and post a profit. Running a bank in Japan in the current low interest rate climate, on the other hand, is an extremely difficult task. However, running a bank in a developing economy isn't such a difficult task. It's not difficult for someone which used to work for Japan's so-called megabanks and who has a long track record of managing banks in Southeast Asia. They say so themselves. I agree with that statement. If banks adhere to the rules and if the creditworthiness processes and management are sound, then they will be able to turn a profit. However, after this reduction of the bank's loan balance and after BJI posted an ordinary loss, I asked Mr. Chiba, another representative director of J-Trust, to oversee the business directly in Indonesia. We expect this ordinary loss to grow smaller during the current fiscal year, as we are currently in the process of building up our loan balance once again. We are accumulating new loans for JTO's loan balance, and we are taking a proactive approach, especially when it comes to retail loans. However, it will take time for us to invert our PL. This excluding non-recurring factors, as we might be able to recover some of the allowances for losses and doubtful accounts we made. For this reason, if we proceed at the current rate, we expect to start by turning a single-month profit at some point next year, and then turn profitable. In a worst-case scenario, Mr. Chiba has said there is a chance this won't happen by December, but my experience tells me Mr. Chiba's forecasts generally fall on the conservative side, so I'm hopeful we will return to profitability at BJI during next fiscal year. To this end, we are carrying out employee training at each division of our bank in Indonesia. As you can see from the slide, elite members of the group that rebuilt a failed South Korean bank have been dispatched to Indonesia. Mr. Chiba is the head of this group, but we have members with experience in the South Korean market and a gentleman who used to inspect the health of banks for the Japanese FSA. This team is composed of some members who have experience working abroad for Japan's megabanks. We are therefore taking a dedicated approach to employee training while increasing the loan balance. On the other hand, for Japanese regional banks, more and more of their clients are venturing overseas. We created what we have termed the Japan Linkage division within our bank in Indonesia and offer services not offered by the Japanese megabanks. We thus expect to see steady improvements over time. The Japan Linkage division has received considerable interest from Japanese regional banks. So much interest, in fact, that our team in Indonesia is having trouble dealing with this massive number of queries. This concludes my overview of the Indonesia business. I am fully confident that 2 or 3 years from now, our bank in Indonesia will be able to deliver significant profits. We are currently in the process of paving the way for that. During our earnings briefing last November, I mentioned how the situation appeared dire, and how we were considering receiving a capital infusion from a large bank, including the transfer of operational know-how. I mentioned how this could potentially speed up the recovery process. However, over the past number of months, our confidence in our ability to do this on our own has improved. So while it's not at 100%, we are increasingly confident in our ability to turn things around in Indonesia. Our bank in Indonesia was originally a listed company. However, since it has been bought out by the government, its listing status was suspended. J-Trust currently owns close to 100% of the shares in issuance. However, a free float of 7.5% would allow the company to trade again, so one of our goals for this year is to restore its status as a tradable security. Also, before that, we want to obtain a credit rating and introduce subordinated debt capital in order to grow the company. Next, I would like to discuss the Cambodia business. ANZ Royal Bank has been recording a tremendous profit. In 2018, it delivered $29 million in operating profit, which at an exchange rate of 110 yen per US dollar translates into roughly 3.2 billion yen. For this reason, we don't see any performance problems associated with ANZ Royal Bank. I shall be discussing this topic in a later part of this presentation, but we are currently carrying out our utmost efforts to convert ANZ Royal Bank's global system and adapt it locally in Cambodia. This conversion is slated for completion by the end of the month. However, we are currently experiencing difficulties in the transition, so there is a chance it might take a little bit longer than we had originally expected. We'll make sure to disclose any such delays should the need arise. We will do our utmost to honor the original schedule, but this is a fully integrated system which has to be fully operational and completely bug-free. For this reason, there is a chance there might be a slight delay. On the other hand, we are currently carrying out a coming soon campaign with commercials airing on TV in Cambodia. We are hearing from dozens of Japanese companies operating in sectors such as finance, real estate, agriculture, and automobile sales that would like us to complete the closing quickly so that we can form business alliances. Furthermore, we recently received an invitation from the Japanese consul in Cambodia to attend a special dinner to honor Japanese companies operating in the country. We want to close on these deals for ANZ Royal Bank as soon as possible. Next, I would like to discuss the financial business in Japan. The financial business is mainly divided into the guarantee business and into the servicer business. Condominium loans have been the primary focus in the guarantee business over the past few years, although we started out with consumer loans. The guarantee of consumer loans allowed us to accumulate our guarantee balance. After that, we started accumulating condominium loans. At the end of the fiscal year, which ended in March 2019, our guarantee balance stood above 200 billion yen. This represents a very steady source of revenue and a key discussion about how the next several years will be. We don't expect to register the same tremendous expansion of our loan guarantee balance that we saw over the past 2 years. On the other hand, we also don't expect a reduction of our loan guarantee balance either. For this reason, we expect it to grow somewhat. This refers to bank's guarantee business. I have a stake in Samurai and J Partners of, I cannot recall the exact percentage, but I believe it to be around 25 to 30%. Samurai and J Partners have their own securities firm and are involved in the crowdfunding and social lending business. In the traditional crowdfunding business, project identification, sales, and credit checks were all carried out as a single unified process. On top of that, the borrower also remained anonymous, while yields stood at something like 10%, making this type of product extremely risky. This led to a wave of defaults on some projects, even among very prominent names in this industry, leading to a loss in confidence. New crowdfunding companies with funding from large, prominent institutions are now attempting to gain a foothold in this market. Amidst all this crowdfunding in Japan, Our loan guarantee balance stood at 200 billion yen in 2018. Since we are a company with a guarantee balance of over 200 billion yen in real estate loans, with virtually no defaults, by guaranteeing loans for crowdfunding companies, while the interest rate might go down a little bit, we can still offer an investment product with a relatively high yield to our clients. This arrangement allows our clients to expand their profits with an added layer of safety. We therefore will be taking a marketing cost to strengthen our promotion efforts and expand our loan guarantee balance. Last Friday, we announced an initiative between Samurai and J Partners and Nihon Hosho in the crowdfunding business involving the guarantee of property-backed loans. The amount involved was small, just below 20 million yen, and with 5% interest, which is considered low for the crowdfunding business. However, the product sold out in 40 minutes. This demonstrates there is considerable demand for this type of product. For this reason, we want to structure more of these deals to meet demand from investors and offer strong guarantees. Should the borrower default on the loan, we have a system in place through which Nihon Hosho guarantees both the principal and the interest to our clients. We want to make more and more of these products available. Currently, we offer 5% in interest income to our investors, but as this enterprise grows in size, this might go down to 4.5%, 4%, or 3.5%. As more people understand that we offer robust guarantees from a publicly listed company, we believe we will be able to grow the scale of this enterprise to 10 billion yen, 20 billion yen, 50 billion yen, and eventually 100 billion yen. For example, I have the opportunity to talk to the managers of Japanese regional banks who are looking for ways to increase revenue and grow. A way for them to do this is to act as institutional investors in the products we guarantee. Expanding the crowdfunding business is a personal goal of mine. Samurai and J Partners has continuously posted losses. J Trust and Keyholder have recently acquired 50% in share options. We do not intend to exercise these share options and turn Samurai and J Partners into a subsidiary, but rather have them raise the stock price and improve their earnings performance and procure funds. Cave Interactive Corporation, Shinto Holdings, and Otsuka Kagu carried out a third-party allocation of new shares with Samurai and J Partners. It has been announced Otsuka Kagu received Chinese capital, but Samurai and J Partners were involved in the funding process. They own a portion of the new shares issued, so I would like for them to increase the value of these three companies they invested in and deliver profits. Next, I would like to discuss the financial business in South Korea. In South Korea, we lend with a mid-level of interest and credit risk. That is to say, unlike the South Korean megabanks, that is, unlike large-scale institutions in South Korea who lend with very low interest rates, our rates are higher, and taking some risks on consumer loans is a thing of the past. A mid-level of interest and credit risk are therefore the characteristics of our current portfolio. As a result, we don't believe we will be overly affected by the economic downturn in South Korea. We are also in the process of increasing our core capital and increase our loan balance. Since we are a bank, we must always keep an eye on our capital adequacy ratio at all times. However, we believe we can increase our core capital. This can be achieved by improving profits, or by obtaining financing from other companies, or from the parent company. Our capital structure in South Korea currently consists of 4 component parts, so we intend to integrate these 4 components to obtain maximum efficiency for our capital structure. We believe the financial business in South Korea to be performing extremely well. Next, I would like to discuss the general entertainment and real estate businesses. Keyholder held their earnings briefing this morning in this very same venue. We sold our stake in Adors a year ago, and Keyholder has since then become a general entertainment company with capabilities in television program production, casting for advertisements and promotional activities, project development, live event and theater management, and through SKE48, which is the company's own IP. Keyholder has branded itself as an entertainment group with a strong background in finance. This type of company is rather unique in the entertainment world, so they have received attention as trendsetters. Keyholder has synergies with the financial business in the field of IP and the ability to aid overseas expansion. We believe there are many synergies to be unlocked with the financial business. On the other hand, we have seen a downsizing of the real estate business. The same applies to the detached housing business, where Keyholder closed down the Osaka and Yokohama branches. We also saw a downsizing of the main office, and the company is in the process of carrying out layoffs in preparation for a leaner operational structure. This isn't related to a possible rupture of the real estate bubble after 2020, but due to the fact that we do not feel like we can compete with larger institutions, also in terms of costs. For this reason, we want to compete in areas where we feel we have the competitive ability to do so. As a result, we are currently carrying out a large-scale downsizing in this business. Since we have Nihon Hosho and the servicer business within the scope of the financial business in Japan, going forward, we want to put together an executive board structure conducive to the emergence of synergies. We believe these synergies will allow for further growth. We suspended shareholder perks recently and reduced dividends to 1 yen per share. I believe this to be justified in the light of poor earnings performance. However, 2 or 3 years from now, we hope to return to steady levels of profitability, at which point in time we would like to resume our shareholder returns program. Finally, I would like to address the current litigation process, which is a cause of concern for investors. We are not overly concerned with these legal proceedings, except for as it pertains to the associated litigation costs. The SEC in Thailand has filed criminal charges against one of our former business associates. Investors also have concerns over a reported lawsuit against us in Cambodia. I am not sure through what means they achieved this, but they launched a criminal suit against us in Cambodia. Anyone can file a criminal suit. That's their prerogative. The criminal suit filed against them by the SEC in Thailand and a frivolous suit brought against us are two completely different situations. The case against us has been dismissed. The Cambodian press too have retracted this news. Since we are in the process of closing our deal with ANZ Royal Bank Cambodia, we have reported the situation to the National Bank of Cambodia, which is their central bank. Oversight of their non-bank business all falls under the supervision of Cambodia's central bank, so we have explained the situation to them and gained their understanding. However, on our part, we have no intention of associating with these people, and as such, we'll take the appropriate action to deal with the situation. This concludes my presentation. Going forward, Keyholder 2 will grow more proactively and significantly larger. My role in Keyholder is encouraging the spread of financial knowledge and of boosting morale and cohesiveness. We experienced a large setback at J-Trust. Going forward, we want to aim not for home runs, but rather for steady growth. We only have 9 months in this new fiscal year, so it will be a very busy period. However, and with a view toward the next fiscal year and the fiscal year after that, we want to build a base of steady and stable growth befitting a bank. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your presence here today. My name is Yamanaka. I represent J-Trust's PR and IR division. Mr. Fujisawa provided us with a detailed overview. For this reason, and taking into account the time we have reserved for the Q&A session to follow, I shall be keeping my presentation brief and simple. I would like to start with page 11. Pages 11 and 12 deal with the company's earnings results for the fiscal year which ended in March 2019. We lowered guidance at the end of the third quarter, and as Mr. Fujisawa mentioned, our earnings performance fell in line with our revised estimates. Page 13 contains an overview of our earnings performance for each segment. In this section, on pages 12 and 13, I would like to address the segments which registered the greatest YOY change. These are the financial business in Southeast Asia and the investment business. Profits decreased greatly in the financial business in Southeast Asia due to the processing of NPLs. However, our earnings performance was more or less in line with company estimates. In the investment business, we also recorded 20 billion yen in allowances against potential loan losses. These refer to allowances against 100% in loan losses and unpaid accrued interest related to our former associate in Thailand. Since this represents a provision against 100% of loan losses, further downside risk has been fully eliminated. As Mr. Fujisawa mentioned earlier, we are yet to collect on accrued interest they owe us. For this reason, within the context of the investment business, we expect a small amount of losses. However, the additional provision against accrued interest will be the same amount as the accrued interest, so these factors are flat on earnings. I would like to give you an overview of each segment. Pages 15 through 17 deal with the financial business in Japan. We were able to continue increasing our guarantee balance in a steady fashion. As shown on page 16, our guarantee balance had grown to 202.4 billion yen at the end of the fiscal year, which ended in March 2019. As shown on page 17, up until now, condominium loans have been the main focus. However, we are in the process of diversifying our guarantees to include loans backed by overseas properties, reverse mortgages, and to the guarantee of crowdfunding loans, even though the amounts involved for this type of guarantee is small, among others. We are therefore shifting toward a strategy allowing us to maintain our guarantee balance and deliver a steady growth in profit. Up until last year, we were able to accumulate more condominium loans, which led to an increase in our guarantee balance. Page 18 deals with the servicer business. The business environment for the servicer business too remains mostly unchanged. However, I would like to address one point pertaining to the collection of receivables handled by part-tier servicer. Our business model consists of the purchase of NPLs for cash advances and consumer credit companies, which we then proceed to collect on. The share of companies who, unlike prominent large-scale companies, don't attempt to collect on these NPLs on their own is steadily rising. The market for NPLs as a whole remains unchanged according to statistics. However, NPLs associated with leasing companies and consumer credit companies is steadily growing. We thus intend to continue steadily growing our share and expand our business. Next, I would like to discuss the financial business in South Korea on pages 20, 21, and 22. As you can see on page 20, we continue to derive stable revenue and profit in the financial business in South Korea. In terms of operating profit, we delivered 3.5 billion yen during the fiscal year which ended in March 2018, and 4.8 billion yen in the fiscal year which ended in March 2019. This exceeded our original forecast. We then raised our estimate after the third quarter, and were able to reach this revised goal as well. As shown on page 21, delinquency ratios remain stable. Page 22 deals with the composition of our loan portfolio. As Mr. Fujisawa mentioned earlier, average loan interest rates for unsecured consumer loans continue on a steady downward trend. The rate of origination of new loans stood at around 16%. For this reason, we continue expanding our business in the mid-interest rate, mid-risk category of loans. Page 23 deals with our balance of receivables at TA Asset Management in the servicer business. Even if macroeconomic conditions in South Korea grow worse and the growth rate of loan origination slows, our business model is a combination of servicer and banks centered around the collection of NPLs, so we have been able to steadily grow our balance of receivables. Next, I would like to discuss the financial business in Southeast Asia on pages 27 and 28. As I mentioned earlier, we processed NPLs, resulting in a significant drop in operating profit. Page 28 shows the percentage of loans delinquent over 90 days and the evolution of our loan balance according to Indonesian accounting standards. We processed NPLs during the third and fourth quarter. However, delinquency ratios appear to have increased. Rather than an increase in the amount of delinquencies, since we registered a significant reduction in our loan balance, the ratio of delinquencies merely appears to have increased. The absolute amount of delinquencies is not on a rising trend, so we would like to continue accumulating high-quality loans. Page 30 deals with our results for the investment business. As I mentioned earlier, we booked an allowance against potential losses, which resulted in an operating loss. Page 31 contains an analysis of the factors which influenced the change in operating profit on a YOY basis. Page 33 deals with the non-financial business, which Mr. Fujisawa covered during his presentation. I also invite you to read the earnings results for Keyholder. Lastly, I would like to give you an overview of the assumptions used in our consolidated results forecast for the fiscal year ending in December 2019. Page 35 details our assumptions in terms of the exchange rates for various currencies. Page 36 contains our operating revenue and operating profit forecast by segment for the fiscal year ending in December 2019. This represents a 9-month period, which, as I mentioned earlier, is an irregular number. We expect steady growth in both the financial business in Japan and South Korea, allowing us to deliver profits. We expect a break-even level in terms of operating profit for these two segments. As we mentioned earlier, we booked an allowance against potential losses, which resulted in an operating loss. Up until now, any deviations from our forecast took shape in the form of a downside deviation. However, our forecast for the fiscal year ending in December 2019 is a rather conservative one, so we intend to continue our efforts to make sure we don't fall short of this goal. We expect that there may not be significant events. We forecast an operating loss of 3.8 billion yen in the segment of others. As Mr. Fujisawa mentioned earlier, this accounts for M&A and litigation costs, among others. These costs will be offset by some items in the financial business in Southeast Asia, so these 3.8 billion yen in costs will not have as much of a negative impact as they appear. We will do our utmost to exceed this forecast. This concludes my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions you might have during and after the Q&A.